guy, and do you hear that sound? Yeah, that's the sound of Burnley being chucked off a cliff. Honestly, right now, I feel like we're all at Burnley's funeral with just lumps of soggy Special K littered on their coffin. How could you think to sack Sean Dyche? And especially in the middle of a relegation battle. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like being on a chartered flight to South America, and suddenly halfway through, you hear an announcement on the tannoy that,
Oh, we just randomly decided to sack the pilot. Does any of you know how to fly a plane?
I mean, pick your timing. I mean, who are you going to replace Sean Dyche with? Sean the Sheep? Nobody is going to want to join. This is a disgrace. Imagine calling Sean Dyche into your office and sacking him at Burnley. I'm sorry, who are you, Alan Pace? What, some nerd from America? Sean Dyche is Burnley. This man is the Ned Stark of Turf Moor. This man who should have a statue outside the ground. I mean, he joined in 2012, taking over an Eddie Howe-shaped mess. I mean, honestly, trying to play tiki-taka pretty football at Burnley? That's a bit like attending a Megadeth concert and offering to bake everyone a cake. It's like turning up to an underground fight club and trying to sell DVDs of the Teletubbies. No. Read the room. A fat Burnley fan tucking into a pie does not want to watch fancy stepovers or quick passing drills. No, I'm sorry, they want to see meaty tackles and red cards in the rain. I mean, Dyche, he suited them to a T. Before Dyche, Burnley had been promoted to the Premier League once in 50 years. And this is a man who took you up twice. I mean, he won the championship title. They talk about second season syndrome. No, his second season syndrome was finishing 7th in the Premier League. He had Burnley in Europe, playing against a team with Yaya Toure on the payroll. Just what? Emmanuel Adebayor is a footballer with a monster ego, right? Yeah, well, there's a guy who's now forced to look at himself in the mirror and admit that, yeah, I was once knocked out of Europe by Burnley. Buy that at trying 150,000 subscribers as soon as possible. If you're new here, slap the big fat red button, you absolute legend. All of you. Anyone who subscribed to this, you're all just legends. Anyway, back into the video. I mean, I think we all need a reality check here, because clearly the Burnley hierarchy must have infected peanut butter rotting in their brain. Under Dyche, Burnley have beaten 30 different Premier League clubs, including all of the big boys. Yeah, I realise that Burnley had only won 4 games of football this season, but is that not more due to the fact that you have a championship squad? I mean, 2 summers ago, you gave Dyche a summer transfer budget of £990,000. Lads, you'd win more on an episode of The Chase. I'm sorry, but what was bringing in a fat Dale Stephens ever going to do, other than raise the overall cholesterol of the squad? I mean, I'm guessing if you walked into the Burnley gym, you'd just find that guy wolfing down a children's birthday cake on the treadmill. I mean, sure, the signings of Wout Weghorst and Maxwell Cornet this season have been promising, finding some decent, exciting additions, but lads, Burnley have been signing championship footballers for years. Honestly, before Weghorst and Cornet, I mean, the last truly guaranteed Premier League quality signing you made was Robbie Brady from Norwich, I guess? Everyone else has been a gamble. Even Joe Hart was a gamble. And even then, Dyche wound up letting him rot on the bench. I'm struggling to understand this one. Okay, if for some reason the Burnley board had grown tired of watching a brand of football clearly plucked out of the era of the Flintstones, sure, yeah, okay, the chairman Alan Pace is only 18 months in the door. I mean, this guy used to run Real Salt Lake in the MLS, you know, back in sunny little Utah. I mean, do you reckon he was really happy living in grimy, windy Burnley, watching Dyche growl at his players every match? I mean, honestly, I get it, okay? To many purists, Jay Rodriguez being instructed to fling his elbow into the centre half's nose at corner kicks, I mean, it's not exactly a beautiful game, is it? I mean, good Christ, Ben Mee choosing to stamp on Martinelli's toe until it bleeds. Josh Brownhill sticking his knee in someone's stomach. Sure, for an American businessman from Hollywood, I mean, those 90 minutes of Turf Moor were probably about as much fun as wiping your nan's bum. And I'm sure he was probably embarrassed at his fancy cocktail parties. But he couldn't sack Dyche immediately in December 2020 when he arrived. As soon as he walked through the door, as the fans would soon have been turning up outside his house, throwing a bowling ball at his garden shed. You know, stamping on his tulips, kicking the lawnmower and maybe feeding chocolate to the dog. You just know he was waiting for any excuse to get rid.
Best of luck to Sean and Burnley official in Carrow Road tomorrow.
Yeah, best of luck, because if you don't win, I'm going to ruin your Easter. Honestly, any excuse. I just know this is the face of a football snob. Because honestly, why else would you cut Dyche loose when he's 8 games away from pulling off yet another minor miracle? It's not as if he'd lost a dressing room. Just last week they were rallying to beat an Everton team packed with about £300 million worth of talent. 5 years ago, this is a man who Burnley were clinging onto at all costs. Honestly, the fans were probably trying to cut the phone wires outside his house. Maybe slash his tyres with a fork. Anything to stop him ditching them for a highly paid gig at Everton. Even last summer, they were issuing a hands-off to Crystal Palace. And now, because of his undying loyalty to the club, he survived long enough to get ungratefully sacked. I mean, this reminds me of when Stoke City got above their wagon. I mean, clearly cup finals and European football spoiled their chairman, who supposedly thought he could do better than Tony Pulis's caveman football. I mean, sure, they got a nice 6-1 win over Liverpool, I guess, but I mean, they soon got relegated. This is lunacy. This is sheer utter lunacy. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the favourite for the job is Sam Allardyce. How does that make sense? Dyche has not been relegated in 7 years. Allardyce was relegated in his very last match in charge. I mean, remember that sour, burnt-out gig at West Brom, where he looked like an exhausted granddad who clearly just needed a sauna and a pint? Honestly, let's be real. Losing his England job after a month pretty much drove Allardyce's hunger for the sport into a tree. And let's not forget, he's retired about 4 times. I remember when this guy came out and said that he wanted to retire at Bolton at 55. Yeah, he's now 3 years off 70. I'm gonna tell you the same thing someone should have told Wayne Rooney. Stay away from the semi-retired. I mean, he has had 5 different jobs since Dyche was last relegated. And guess what? Did not last more than 6 months in any of them. Picking him for 8 games at Burnley, you might as well just give the job to the guy who delivers Just Eat pizzas on his bike, because Big Sam is done in football. I mean, what is he gonna do that Dyche wasn't doing? I mean, Dyche's job at Burnley was the job Allardyce did at Bolton. Dyche is the modern day peak Big Sam. So this, again, it would be like for the last James Bond film if the studio had dumped Daniel Craig midway through shooting to instead replace him with Sean Connery. Placed above, they need a bloody good green screen. Second favourite for the job is Alan Pardew. What, you mean the guy who last week was linked with the gig at Wimbledon? Someone who right now is taking training sessions on the west coast of Bulgaria? Why? Why are the 2 favourites for the job both guys who failed at West Brom? Honestly, do you want to hurry up the process and just offer the deal to Steve Bruce? Third favourite is Claudio Ranieri, someone who miserably failed in each of his last 2 Premier League rescue missions. Don't you dare appoint Claudio Ranieri. He's like a fireman who stands back from the burning building and instead just eats toasted marshmallows on the lawn. Ranieri to Burnley would be like a surreal Christmas cracker joke. Fourth favourite is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't care if he is a managerial sock puppet. I refuse to believe there's a man in world football whose ego would let them and allow them to go from manager of Manchester United to a coach at Burnley. No, just no. It would be like Johnny Depp having been sacked from the massive Pirates of the Caribbean franchise to then agree to star as a tree in a school play in Hull. I don't think so, buddy. Other names tossed about are Rafa Benitez. I mean, make no mistake about it, he would be a brilliant fantasy pick for Burnley. But I think a European champion like him would sooner eat dead rats on toast than sign a 3-year deal at Turf Moor. Fifth favourite for the job is Marcelo Bielsa. Oh yes, because that's what you want to appoint with a month left of the season. Managerial insanity. No, there's not enough time. No, it's like trying to teach a chubby gymnastic rookie, someone who spent the last year eating popcorn on the couch. It's like teaching them the entire routine to Swan Lake just 6 minutes before he's forced to go out on stage. No, not enough time. Former Burnley defender Michael Duff is another strong favourite, but he's 12th in League One with Cheltenham Town. The only time a Premier League chairman should ever be sniffing around Cheltenham is when they're sipping from a whiskey flask, watching an injured horse and their mortgage up in flames. I reckon Burnley don't have a plan. They don't have anyone lined up. Daniel Farke is a free agent after leaving Krasnodar, but his Premier League win record would make your eyes bleed. Nuno Santo would be a good call, yes, but surely his next move is going to be abroad. And Wayne Rooney turned down his beloved Everton to help Derby County out. So what makes you think he'd now abandon his passion project to get a move to Burnley? Come on, use your head. Who else? David Unsworth is 25-1. I mean, you might remember that Everton coach as being the guy who Joey Barton once said was too fat to manage. Who else? Tony Pulis, a man whose flame was also burnt out, considering he was sacked after just 10 games at Sheffield Wednesday and hasn't had a phone call in nearly 2 years. Michael Carrick and Roy Keane are in the running. What a joke! Slavisa Jokanovic was binned after just 4 months at Sheffield United. And who else? Claude Puel. Good coach, yes, but in comparison to Dyche, he's got the personality and charisma of a fish. I think this is going to be a stupid call from out of the blue, like Harry Redknapp. The chairman is going to quickly realise that nobody really wants the Burnley job. I wouldn't be surprised if Pace spends about 20 minutes begging Arsene Wenger on the phone, you know, just like Fulham did 3 years ago. I mean, clearly a football philosopher like him would sooner eat ice cream off a toilet seat than manage Burnley. Honestly, Harry Redknapp is going to replace Sean Dyche. I just know it. Sean Dyche has a much better future than Burnley. Trust me. I mean, just like Chris Wilder, Dyche will bounce back from this Premier League ingratitude and he's going to get a good championship job. And I'm sure his old club Watford will probably be on the phone in about a month's time. But again, a man of his integrity will probably tell those impatient donors to go and kiss a garden gnome. His next job? My prediction, QPR. Trust me lads, just watch as we see Burnley slip away back into nothingness. And for most of the 20s, Christ about, are we actually living in the 20s? Christ, how old does that make us sound? Are we the Frank Sinatras of this generation? But anyway, yeah, for most of the 20s, QPR are going to be a mainstay in the Premier League. They're going to be an uncompromising bunch of tough gargoyles. We've had the era of Stoke. We've had the era of Burnley. So the next Premier League bad boy, the one smoking at the back of the class and beating up nerds for their lunch money, we're looking at it, lads. It's Sean Dyche's QPR. Anyway, that's just what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below who's going to be the next manager of Burnley. Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.